There are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Yeah, calling all warriors and troopers that's willing to step up and accept the challenge. Just got a question. Who's down to answer the call? We need to answer the call, right? You down to answer the call, right? I'm down to answer the call. We need some starters, yo. We need some thinkers, yo. As largest in charge, yo. We doing it major, yo. Who's down to answer the call? We down to answer the call. Putting our foot down on the neck of the devil, right? Our mentalities is to never get settled, right? So who's with us to take it to the next level? Take off on go mode like all gas, no brake pedal.
Hello?
Taking over city to city, going from state to state, invading the whole planet from the Pacific to Atlantic. What? We official, not artificial, pure and organic. Feeding you that manna, no manifest of that milk dress. Let's take that C out of sickle, turn the cell into well. Drop KLE out of ickle, add it with apostrophe M. Now what that spells? Say it. I'm well. How you feeling? We good. I'm well. Who's down to answer the call? We need to answer the call, right? You down to answer the call, right? I'm down to answer the call. We need some stars.
This is The Call. We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. This is an amazing episode of The Call where we'll be dealing with some very deep issues in our sickle cell community. First of all, we just want to give a shout out to Charlie Black for that beautiful intro that we have for our show. Again, are you down to answer the call? And today, we want to just start out with a couple things. We want to make sure that you guys are aware of us on social media, SCD Unity on Instagram, at SCD Unity on Twitter. And you can always hit us up on our Facebook page at This Is The Call. And then also you can email us at thisisthecall017@gmail.com. Today's show, we want to start out with as usual, some sickle cell facts. And because our show today is going to be dealing with some very serious issues of loss in our sickle cell community, we want to share with you some facts that can lead to death in the sickle cell community. And that begins with things like childhood stroke, which affects 10% of children under the age of 12 and can manifest in death, and it does not always, but certainly has, taken some of our children from us in this community, as well as infections that also lead to issues with children and can lead to issues with adults, creating fevers that become move to the point of actually affecting our systems and shutting down our systems. Acute chest syndrome is another issue that can affect people with sickle cell disease, and that's when you can get an infection in your chest and actually have sickling in your lungs that shuts down the process of your lungs. Multiple organ failure is an issue that manifests in generally in warriors who have gotten a little older and whose bodies have just taken about as much punishment as a body can take, because sickle cell disease affects every organ of the body. It affects every cell in the body, that over time the buildup of those little bitty heart attacks that are happening with sickle cell disease just kill our organs and cause our bodies to shut down and really make for a very difficult end for people living with this disease. We also have issues like rhabdomyolysis, which is a trait condition that can lead to death. It manifests when the blood becomes under conditions of stress and dehydration that can cause the blood to become hypoxic, that can shut down your kidneys, and hopefully it will not continue, but killed our athletes. It's killed people in the services who strive and don't even know they have sickle cell trait, and are working out and being athletic and simply having this manifestation in their bodies. the mistreatment of sickle cell disease, and this manifests in several ways. The pain of sickle cell disease is so intense that it can lead to hypertension in the body, which can cause stroke, it can cause heart attack, it can cause, and as far as mistreatment is concerned, just simply ignorance in the medical community and how to handle sickle cell disease, leaving us lingering in the waiting room for hours in this intense pain. And also, we want to own our own ignorance in how we should be caring for ourselves over the years of our lives to make sure that our lives are not shortened by this disease. And so, as you can see, there are a number of ways that people can lose loved ones, and again, this manifests across all of disease. It is certainly something that can manifest in the loss of a loved one, people that we care about, our friends and our family. And so we're going to be dealing with those issues today on the call, and to help us deal with those issues, we want to introduce our special guest, our guest specialist, who was with us last week and with us again this week, Dr. Felicia Hunt. Can you bring Dr. Felicia Hunt out? Are you there, Felicia?
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Wonderful. We want to thank you for being with us again, Dr. Hunt. And so, Dr. Hunt, I just want to...
glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you again. And I just want to share a little bit about who Dr. Hunt is. Dr. Hunt is a marriage and family therapy counselor, and she also does specializing in... she offers her a specialization in African American family services and multicultural... I'm sorry, I'm reading off of my phone, forgive me, and multicultural competence, which is really interesting, and with a holistic approach to in supporting and serving persons distressed with grief and loss, and helping to navigate the emotional and eternal processes after experiencing life-changing events. Dr. Hunt, I want to thank you for being with us again today. And we're going to have you comment on some of the stories that will be shared on the show today, including stories from members of our cast members. But right now we're going to welcome our first guest. Is Misty on? Okay, and we're going to bring on our first guest, Misty Melanie, from the Misty Melanie Sickle Cell Disease Foundation. And she will be sharing with us some stories of loss in the community that will certainly be relevant to the conversation that we'll be sharing today. Misty, are you there?
Yes, hello, and good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, Misty, for being with us today. Again, I'm so blessed to have you as part of Team Sickle Cell and the amazing work that you do. I think that everyone in the sickle cell community is already aware of. And I just want to give you some breath here to go ahead and share your story with us. So go ahead and share your story, dear.
Well, the Misty Melanie Sickle Cell Disease Foundation helps families that don't have enough income to pay for medication that they need, or that are not on certain types of insurances that they may need their medical care. So we help them to get on that, Social Security. We help pay for medications with some of the funding that we get to get them started, so then we can transfer them over to the right insurances to cover it. Our main goal is transitioning. As you were speaking about earlier, we lose a lot of patients and young adults with this disease. And what a lot of people don't know is the transitioning phase is when we lose most of our patients, between the ages of 18 and 30. And so this past year alone, we've lost 6 patients every month except for June. And they died from complications from sickle cell, along with sickle cell crisis. acute chest syndrome, like you spoke about earlier as well, was one that did take the life of a young man, leaving his wife widowed. Also, when it comes to having a stroke, another patient had multiple strokes, not able to get the right care or be in the proper, doctor's hands, didn't have a doctor that was able to care for him throughout his adult age. Also, with the crisis, we had one patient that went into shock waiting in the waiting room, and then also, because of waiting in shock from all the pain, ended up having acute chest syndrome, being tubed and in ICU, and then never recovered from that. So there are different ways that our patients are passing away, but what they do all have in common is the consistent care they get from being a child up until adulthood. And unfortunately, if we're not able to pair them with doctors, adult physicians that actually care enough about this disease to take care of them and know the information and the knowledge, or even want to try, to take care of them and get that knowledge from other doctors who are doing the same thing, we lose out. We lose out on making, friends. We lose out on having family members. And we lose out on people in society that can be a part of society and do many things with their future if they only had the chance.
Oh, Misty, wow, that is definitely a statement that is worthy of discussion. Dr. Felicia Hunt, would you like to just share your thoughts on a little bit of that and how that can relate to the type of survivor's remorse that people have to deal with, and some of the other issues that we're faced with in the community?
Sure. There are stages of grief, that we all go through. And as a result, I'm pretty sure that most families who are connected to the people who have been passing go through these things and not knowing how to identify with them. And the most common stages are denial, like they just can't believe it. Then the next stage they may find themselves going through is being very angry. And then after that, they start bargaining. They bargain with themselves, with God. They bargain like, why does it have to happen? Like, how come this and that? And why did the doctors did not do this? And so they just bargain like, please, like, why did this happen? And then after that, a depression comes. And then after that, you finally get to an acceptance. But there's a lot of work that has to go on before that point, right? Because we, the ones that are left behind when our loved ones have passed on, and we see the experience as a traumatic experience. And so therefore, we don't understand the processes of which they may have taken to even be able to transition, right? All we know is what we see in the flesh and what's going on and what didn't happen. And so it's hard for us to conceptualize that our loved ones have gracefully passed on. And sometimes we are left with the guilt and the trauma of that. And it's hard for us, the living, to move past that. And so we do, need that support system, need someone to talk to, need someone to help us process the stages of grief and the why me, like why this did not happen to me. Like if you're siblings and you both have sickle cell and one dies and the other one lives, it's like, why me? Why did this happen? Why did my sibling pass and I didn't? It's like a hard pill to swallow. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It's right. It has nothing to do with right or wrong, good or bad. None of those issues that we may try to come to grips with within ourselves, but as we learn how to
that right or wrong, we do that a lot too.
Do that a lot, and it keeps you on a down spiral, right? Because you can't dig yourself out of that hole, But that's okay. It's a process, and it's normal and it's natural to go through, because the last stage is acceptance. And once we can get to that part, then we could begin to free ourselves, continue to love our loved ones in spirit and in truth, know that they are now our angels, our guardian angels, our ancestors, however you to believe, but they have only transitioned, Spirit
Dr.
lives
Hannah,
forever.
If you could just add a little perspective in this regard, and that is, in the sickle cell community, when you deal with issues of people being lost to mistreatment in the hospital, that certainly triggers a desire to respond to those issues that caused the mistreatment and may have contributed to the loss of our loved ones. Again, is that part of that process, or is there some validity to the fact that we want to inform the medical community of how they may have contributed to the loss of our loved ones? I mean, where do we separate that? How do we separate that from those natural processes that we go through in regards to loss?
Well,
in our advocacy, I should say.
Which one? Which one you want to go first? I'm sorry.
Again, I'll let
you
choose.
Misty. Go ahead, Miss Misty. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is we've already taken steps to actually talk to the doctors, the nurses that cared for some of these patients way before they passed, during their passing, and after their passing. And, the title Survivor's Remorse is very true, because you see so many sickle cell patients that are thriving, that are doing well. They're going off to college. They're getting married. They're doing all the things that, people in general want to do in life, have those goals. And so for the ones that are not capable of doing it because of exactly what doctor said, which is you get into this place of, denial, and then you're angry, and so you kind of push everything and everyone away, and that's even including your own family at points in time, thinking, well, they're not supporting me. Look at this family supporting this person and what all they have. I never had that. And then you have the ones who do make it and get married and everything, and I'm one of them, where you do feel kind of bad and like, okay, well, if I can do this, why, can't I help other people do it, or why can't other people do it for themselves as well? And then you honestly have to look at it as everyone that has sickle cell is not the same. And that's exactly how the nurses and doctors need to look at it. They can't group us together, and we can't group ourselves together, because that's one of the main problems that we have. It's not separated, and then we all get one type of care. And if we go somewhere where these doctors have had enough, and these doctors don't want to treat sickle cell patients because they've had rough clients before, then that's what the patient's going to get. And then that makes the patient go down. They spiral out because they're in pain. They know why they're having this pain because of their disease. All they're looking for is relief, but instead one day you get a doctor that may have just had a bad day or a bad experience with sickle cell patients and take it out on this new person that's coming for the help that they need.
All right, well, that's a really good, valid point. And guys, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Misty, but I do want to get a couple other people to just share. I have with me today, and I want to thank her for holding it down for me on the deck, because I forgot to mention that my other cast members are all sick with sickle cell disease and going through
It's
what
real
they go
life.
through. It's just life in the blood. And so Nita Thompson is here with us today. I want to thank her for being on deck with me. And she wants to make a quick comment before we move on with our show. Go ahead, Nita.
Thank you. One of the things that I've noticed throughout the years, and in going to symposiums and meetings of other groups, is we, unfortunately, but fortunately, because we're getting ready to focus on hindsight, and we're creating a hindsight advocacy portion. We're going to be talking to people and just asking what actually happened, and it is hard. It brings up a lot of emotions, but we want to help the medical community and save lives. So I have spoken to so many people and helped them just in general understand. But more than that, we want to bring this to the table to help others. There are incidences where nothing could be done. There are other incidents where definitely things could have been done. And we also ask our attorneys to help out. So we are gathering attorneys up who will really handle some cases, because some are straight out wrong and others, it's an unfortunate situation. But the other thing is that our community does not talk about the losses. We may talk online, but the family members are left out, and we need more counseling on that end, just talking and discovery. So that is in the making.
Yeah, and that's actually what's in the making today as we continue on the subject of family relations, survivor's remorse. And fortunately, we do have a couple of our cast members who are online who are going to call and share their stories. And so as we move to that, we want to thank you, Misty, for sharing that amazing testimony to the facts of how this disease manifests in death. And who do we have online, Farron?
Shay Brown is there.
Ah, Shay Brian. Hey, what's up, Shay?
Hello.
All right, how you doing?
Hey, Shay.
Thanks for calling it in today, honey. I know you couldn't be here, and I know you would be if you could. But we're on the subject of survivor's remorse, dealing with loss and grief, and we're really interested in hearing what you have to share with us.
Well, I definitely relate to that because, I lost my mom to sickle cell when she was only 25 and I was only 7. So, all my life I had the limitations on myself that I would not live past 25 because she didn't. And just all the health issues that she had and how hard she had to fight to stay, as long as she did. It's unfortunate that, okay, so I was doing a little research the other day on the causes, the main causes of death, with sickle cell patients, and to see, what the death rates were. And one of the sites that I looked up said that it wouldn't be an accurate number because most people who die from sickle cell, it's not on their death certificate.
Certainly.
And I can recall back looking at my mom's death certificate, and on hers it just said, that she had cardiac arrest and an issue with her heart and kidneys, basically. That's what caused her death. When, she had been fighting sickle cell her whole life. And just, dealing with that, it brought some feelings up for me, because I just feel like I know that they say it's complications, there's a complication in sickle cell, but sickle cell caused those complications. So it's just, I just want more recognition in that area and feeling, like I for so long had to stay strong because, you know, my mom's mother, she really took care of her entire life and helped her out any way she could. So after she passed, she pretty much fell apart. So I didn't have the proper chance to heal because I had to make sure I was strong for her. So I'm really just now coming to terms with my mom's death and dealing with it, you know, head on. So it's a process, and I do feel survivors remorse in that sense.
Being a young man in the sickle cell community.
That is amazing story, Shebrian. And Dr. Felicia Hunt, if you'd like to share some comments about that, I'd love to hear it.
Yes, like Shebrian said towards the end, you know, you have to understand the medical field because they deal with the issue at hand. And so, yeah, when you see the death certificate, it's going to list the cause. You know, that's what they do. They list the cause. And so because that is what exactly happens, is the complications. Sickle cell don't kill us. It's the complications that people die from. Okay.
Hey, thank you. Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you're on the line, can you please mute your phones because we can hear you talking. So we really need to have this conversation heard. So if you're not talking, please mute your phone. Thank you. Okay, doctor.
Yes, I'm out here in nature, so you might hear some goose and geese and chickens.
Oh, we good with that. We good with that. We can handle that. We can handle that. I just don't want to know other about in the background. No, you good? Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So as I was saying, is that so we can begin to get a little relief. So we have to understand the medical field and what's happening in our community. So some hospitals have knowledge about sickle cell. Some of them don't. Some of them don't handle enough cases to understand what is really going on. So like me, I'm out in the Pomona area. Everything Pomona really learns about sickle cell comes from me. Any material, anything about what can help us come from me. I'm an advocate. So absolutely. There again, that's where we become advocates for ourselves to help them. Lead them to the research. Lead them to what helps us best. You know, we have to do that. That's number one. Number two, the other thing, like when it's an emergency, like Misty mentioned some emergencies, we have to be unapologetic about being advocates and demand to be seen because we are high risk. We can't afford to sit in the emergency room for hours. We can't do that. We have to have somebody. If you are in too much pain, you have to have somebody who can advocate for you to get you back there right away to be seen. Because we are high risk because of the complication. You never know what's going on internally. And sometimes they wait too long, and it's unfortunate. It's really serious. You can't come back from that.
Right, and these are issues that, again, you know, as a community, and certainly we have a lot of people doing hard work in our community to address these issues and to find intelligent ways of responding to these very issues. I believe Diamond Ray, is he queued up?
You live with the call. D. Ray.
Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're looking for...
Hey, this is Diamond Ray.
Hey, Diamond Ray. All right, brother. Thank you for calling it in, man. I know you've been going through too, man.
Just let me cut my fan off.
Okay.
Because it is hot out there.
It's hot in L.A.
Our family's coming off the battlefield, man.
No doubt. The family coming off the battlefield, calling it in. Warrior Walk. What you got for us, D. Ray?
Well, mic check 1 2. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you good?
You good?
Okay, great. Well, as a young man in the sickle cell community, growing up as a male, particularly, I feel like we are the minority. So I don't really meet a lot of men growing up or boys growing up, but I did meet a select few. But it felt like every time I would get close to someone and have, like a special bond with them, of course we would become brothers. But then I would get that phone call. I would get the call to, hey, you want to hang out and do this and do that, and maybe we would hang out, maybe we wouldn't. But then I would get the call to, hey, Diamond, I have some bad news for you.
Yeah.
So and so has passed away, and I fell in this in feeling today. I feel like I am like, on one end, I feel like why do I keep losing my friends? On another thought, I keep feel it's like, could I be next? And another thought is like, why is it not me and why is it them? But ultimately, through my advocacy now, I feel like I just have to live the best way I can so I can elevate their memory and their spirit. And I would like to give a shout out to certain people, Mark Anthony Van's family, the family of Marcus Daniels, of Donnell Cord, Amin McKeechin, and I remember I forget my friend Dayton. I forget his last name, but everybody who knows Dayton, they know. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I just have to continue to live for them, which is why I try to take care of myself and share my story and just try to be the best person that I can be in sickle cell. But I still feel so bad. Like if I ever miss that opportunity to hang out with them, and it's like the next call I get is, hey, can never hang out again.
Right. Dr. Felicia Hunt, just share a thought on what Diamond Ray had to share.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Can you?
I'm here
Hi.
too. I don't
Can you
hear
share a thought on what Diamond Ray had to say?
Yeah, this is for the doctor.
This is for the doctor.
Ken,
Hello?
are
Yes.
you there?
Okay.
Yeah, we're here, doctor.
Hello?
I'm listening. We're listening.
Dr. Hunt?
Yes, I'm here. Ken, I can't hardly hear you.
What
was the question?
Were you able to hear what Diamond said?
Ken, can you speak up? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I was saying, were you able to hear what Diamond had to say? Yeah,
were
guys,
you
you got to
able to hear
mute
what
your
I
phones,
said?
please. Just one of us talking.
phones,
Please,
guys.
mute your phones so that we can get everybody heard. Thank you. Dr. Felicia Hunt, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you better now.
Okay. Were you able to hear what Diamond said?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a real thing that Diamond just spoke about, to know someone, and then the next thing you know, they're gone. They're your friends. You hang out together. That's real, that grief. And the thing is, now, we have these societal things, especially being a man, like he says. He feels like he's the minority in some things. But the societal implications that are put on men about being strong and men don't cry, how have these feelings. Men hold their feelings inside. And so we do, all of us, male and female, have to find a way to deal with our emotions. If you keep them bottled up, that's one thing as well for persons with sickle cell disease to trigger a crisis.
Absolutely.
You have to understand how to take care of yourself. And even if you're going through something emotional, as with grief and loss and survival remorse, you got to do self-care.
Yeah.
It's so
Because
important.
if you don't, you're going to trigger something within you, and you may be sick yourself.
All right.
Can I just say a little bit? Of something?
Absolutely, bro.
Absolutely. Being after my experience with sickle cell trait and discovering that there was even a community of the sickle cell community, right?
Brother.
And then meeting Phyllis, right? And then being introduced to like real people in person, I remember the first conference I went to, there was a young kid, and he wanted to meet me. And so I met him in the lobby, talked to him, and then like 2 weeks later, we're back from the conference, and his mom says he's in the hospital. And I was like, what? Like I just saw him. Like, it was real disturbing for me, right? And then to start to interview people, and then the loss of the people that I've interviewed, you know, and then having that show and those parents saying, hey, thank you for interviewing my child, because now I can still hear their voice through those interviews, right? And then we lose Phyllis. And then it's like my mentor is gone. And I wonder, like, how does a doctor have so many patients and then lose patients? Like, where do you go mentally to be able to be connected to folks or people and then be able to disconnect? And me being a part of this community now, more so where I'm integrated now, it's like the loss of Amin the Dream, like the loss of people that we are close to, and then having to, like D-Ray says, they're no longer here. Like, how do you digest that mentally? And the only way, honestly, that I made it through Phyllis's passing is I relate to Star Wars, where those Jedi Knights, when they, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, how they died, and they were more powerful in the spirit when they still communicated with them. And so I use that analogy as how I made it through Phyllis's death. However, if we say we're spiritual and we believe what we believe in, then some of our conversations don't align with what, you know, we believe in our spirituality, because this is not our final destination. And so how do we bring all those different emotions and feelings and self-care, and then missing and the loving? It took me 10 years to get over my grandmother's death. 10 years. So I could relate to the loss. But how do we believe what we believe in our spirituality, and then we go to the conversation of the lack? I just want to know, like, how can...
It's a human process. And it's something that manifests in human beings, and we don't stop being human being because we have spiritual beliefs. But as we do align ourselves to those beliefs more and more, and through the way that we speak those beliefs, it does begin to manifest and bring the healing that we would ask from those beliefs.
Yeah.
But
I know Nita. I know Nita's got something.
Go ahead, Nita.
I do want to share briefly. You mentioned doctors. Dr. Nahara outlived practically all of his patients. But what he did was not stop. He worked 20 years, and people just don't know his full story, but I'll just tell you a little bit. When he could not get funding, he went out and got the funding. That's why it took so long. But he did not stop. All of his patients loved him, and at one point, he was getting ready just to stop because he was getting so many calls about the mistreatment, and he knew about the California statistics. But he just had to continue, and all of the patients that he outlived, that the spirits were with him to help him continue.
Yes. And I totally agree with you, because I know that I still listen to Phyllis, and I still believe and hear her words, and that is really my continued drive to not giving up.
All right.
Go ahead.
Can we get somebody else we got another caller on that we might?
Yeah, we got another voice there.
All right, let's get some other callers on.
Hi,
Hello?
this is Lakeisha.
Hi, Lakeisha. Thank you for calling in.
Who was that other voice though? Who was that? Lakeisha. We had another voice. Who's that? I got like 6 people here.
Yeah.
I'm Aisha.
Aisha.
Oh, all right, Aisha. we knew Stevie Wonder's with us. With Aisha.
Okay, so who was first?
Lakeisha.
Lakeisha.
Hi.
Okay.
My name is Lakeisha. I am a sickle cell warrior. Sickle cell disease type SS. We're talking about loss. I mean, of course, there's a lot of hard loss when it comes down to sickle cell. But my most recent one was my Facebook buddy, Tony Davis. He was like just my comedian. He always checked up on me. I was going through a lot, with my sickness. And, he was just there. And of course, he dealt with sickle cell. And he had type SS, but he didn't talk about it a lot. You know, he just used just being funny, and we used to always have our different little memes and everything like that. And, you know, when he needed someone to talk to, I was there, and vice versa. And it just messed me up because, you know, he went to Vegas for his birthday weekend.
I know.
And everything, and landed, came home. He was home. And I saw that he was sending me, like, my memes and everything. And I was like, well, I know that you enjoyed your weekend. He was like, yes, I enjoyed my weekend. He said, but I want to talk to you. I got to talk to you about something. He said, but you got to remind me. He said, not now, but remind me, you know. And I said, you won't believe what happened. I said, okay, I'll remind you and everything like that. And then that was it.
Wow.
Like 7 hours later, legit, his mom sends me a message that he passed at 7:49 p.m. I cannot get over that yet.
Yeah.
That is just one of the hardest things I've just had to, like, when you talk to someone, then hours later they're gone. And it's like, it's hard with death, period, but when it comes down to sickle cell, even though we know that we have this, it still can be unexpected, like just like that. Like he was just enjoying life, you're taking pictures, you're doing all this, and now we're saying rest in peace.
Right.
So, you know,
That's
I'm heartbroken. You know, I mean, I had a lady who was 59 last year. She was 59 right before her 60th, and she was the oldest person I know with sickle cell.
Wow. Yeah,
Wow.
It's such...
Lakeisha, that is just such a heart-rending thing, and I want Dr. Hunt to speak to that. I mean, what about that sudden loss? That, you know, man, they're 1 minute and gone the next. I'm going to share very quickly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with me and my sister. I mean, I had a conversation with her on a Tuesday, gone on a Wednesday.
Like, when I was talking about this thing of knowingness, of knowing in our beliefs and the way of life, our society, you know, for some of us, the stages of life is not really talked about, and death is a part of it.
Yes.
And we have not yet talked about the process of death enough to know that when it approaches, it's a natural part of life.
Yes.
So therefore, is in line with who we are, what is our belief system, and it just depends on how solid we are and the things that we have on our heart and mind about those things, how we're going to deal with it. Yeah. So sometimes it can be very, very devastating, not only because you're close to that person, but it has something to do with your belief system, what you understand about life, what you understand about death. It's just how you identify with that process. It can be such a hard thing, but if you know the circle of life and how that operates and how that is a part of it, it's like then you can then gracefully embrace the person who have decided to transform. It's like we all have that choice. When we're in our most traumatized or most trying or most painful experience.
Absolutely.
You know, I say a lot of the times when, you know, and these deaths in our community happen so frequent now, like Dr. Hunt just said, they won the game of life. Like the game of life, this is not the final destination. That person has won the game of life. And, you know, we have a relationship to death.
Yeah.
Like the doctor said, we have a relationship to death, and it's until we understand what that relationship to death is and transform that perspective and that interpretation to something that's a positive state. I mean, I'm telling you, that's the only way that I make it now, being an advocate in our community and with the loss of the, I mean, we're all going to die. We don't know when, where, how, why, and we get no say-so. We have an opinion about how people have died, but we don't get no say-so. And you have to, not that you have to, but there's a way that you get to be about that person's life. And like Nita said, you continue to work, you continue to celebrate, you acknowledge that person forever. I mean,
Exactly.
Right, and on that note, guys, we're gonna just thank everyone who called in today, and I know there were a couple of people.
Who's that? We got one more. Come on, we got one more. Who's
Okay.
that?
Well, if you want to take one more call, I'm with you.
Aisha.
I was thinking we might do this in episode 2,
Aisha.
but I'm trying to shut people out. We're on
You
the clock.
got 1 minute, Aisha.
Go ahead, Aisha.
Well, for me,
Phones on mute, please.
Yep, mute phones.
Mute your phones, please. We got 1 minute. We got 1 minute. Go ahead, Aisha.
Well, I'm never going to forget the time, the first time I lost a warrior. I was about 7, 8 years old. And at that time, I was a mean little girl because I was cute and I was trying to be normal. But I remember this boy, he was like a year younger than me. He used to follow me everywhere. We went to the same hospital, had the same doctor. And he didn't show up to camp. So I was thinking, okay, maybe he was sick. I remember I got sick like a week later. My doctor comes in the room crying, talks about he passed away. And even though I was mean to him, like he was still my friend, and I just remember crying. And then they say, oh, well, he passed because like he kept getting pneumonia and acute chest syndrome. And at that time, I didn't really know what it was, but it scared me. And every time after that I got sick, the first thing that came out of my mouth to my mom was, am I going to die? Every time. Like, even till now, I'm afraid of hospitals because you never know when it's your turn to die and how you're going to lose another friend.
Yeah.
And that is certainly the point here. And as we continue this conversation on our next show, which will be on September 30th, we want to recognize again that all those lives that passed were lives of value to someone, and that we're going to put a little bit of twist on it with the next show, and we're going to look for people who can share with us how they celebrate those lives that were lost, and how we celebrate and continue in our walk as warriors.
Let's do this throughout the week too, so we can be prepared for the 30th show. So for those that are following us on the call, please, post your input and give us some feedback so we can have some references and some conversations to bring forth about this managing life.
Yeah.
Really. So, Nita Thompson, before we get out of here, you've been sitting here, anything you want to say, 30 seconds?
All I'll say is I will not delete my people who have passed. I put RIH in my phone book, and I refer to them often. I think about the good things about their life and smile and just use that to motivate me to keep on pushing and doing my God's work.
Thank you.
Amen.
Shouts out to Omika. Omika, we know you're on the battlefield, Omika, so, we missed you this weekend. So we're going to check on you surely after the show is over. So thank you for listeners. KC?
Yes.
Guys, thanks for answering the call this week. We'll see you again soon. God bless.
All right. Thank you.
And Dr. Hunt, Felicia Hunt, thank you so much for your input this week. And if you're available on the 30th, we certainly would love to have you continue to bring your wonderful input. Thank you, Doctor.
Of course. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Calling all warriors.
All right, great show, everyone. Thank you.
That's willing to step up and accept the challenge. Just got a question. Who's down to answer the call? We need to answer the call. Right? You down to answer the call? Right? I'm down to answer the call. We need some starters. Yo, we need some thinkers. Yo, as largest in charge. Yo, we doing it major. Yo, who's down to answer the call? We down to answer the call. Putting our foot down on the neck of the devil, right? Our mentalities is to never get settled, right?
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.
Let's take that C out of sickle, turn